I would like to comment a little bit about family issues from a German perspective, the discourse on family policy in Germany, how we see family issues in Germany, why family policy is designed in a certain manner, and what the outcomes are, and then we can maybe discuss if what we are doing is the right thing we are doing. Well, Germany's social and political economic order, you have heard that yesterday in the speech by Cardinal Marx, is mainly or heavily influenced by the Catholic social teaching. The social market economy relies heavily on the Catholic social teaching, and that means that the traditional family has a very strong position in this concept. The traditional family, married parents with biological children, mainly practicing the traditional role model. Our basic law, our constitution states that marriage and family are under the special protection of the state, and child raising is the natural rights of parents. There is an explicit pointing to the natural law or natural rights theory in our basic constitution. Now, this has several implications for family policy as well. The first implication is, and these are figures from the OECD, I think I can show, I take the mouse, maybe it's better than that. The first implication is that Germany devotes a large part of its GDP on family policy issues. But most part of it is invested in cash benefits, in tax breaks for social purposes, so in monetary policy, and only a smaller part is invested in benefits in kind. For example, the United States, they are over there, so the proportion is quite smaller than that. Okay, we have, of course, if you evaluate our family policy with the traditional measure that is typically used to evaluate family policies, the total fertility rate, then Germany is doing an extraordinary bad job. The fertility rates in Germany, they are as low as this one, 1.34. In 2009, and this is well below the average. Germany belongs to the so-called lowest low fertility rate countries. Yesterday we have heard that Europe is approaching a demographic winter. So if this is so, then Germany is in the demographic ice age already. Just to give you another example, the United States, they are over there. So although the United States invests much less money and resources in family policy, they have a much higher fertility rate. But I will comment on that later on as well. We do have changes in family structure as well. The first is an increase in maternal employment. Germany is this here. And if you see that the average employment rate of mothers is lower than the OECD average, but this has to do mainly that mothers with children younger than 3 years have a rather low employment rate. They are only 30% are in the labor market. If the youngest child is older than 6 years, then the employment rate, the labor force participation of women is above the average. We do have problems with family structure as well. Professor Heckman pointed out to that. This is the increase of births outside marriage. Maybe you cannot read it from the behind. It's from 1970 to 2002. The solid line is West Germany, and you see that the percentage of births out of wedlock increased from, let's say, about 8% to something about 20% for West Germany. In East Germany, it's well above 50%. And you see that there's still a strong division between East and West Germany, even 25 years after the fall of the Iron Curtain. But however, when we take a look at the family structure overall, then we can see that in Germany, the percentage of children being raised in one-parent families is rather low, with 15%. The overall majority of our children are raised in married families, in families with married parents. If we compare this to the US, in the US, around about 26% of the children are raised in one-parent families, and only 68% are raised in two-parent families. So there is a difference in that too. Well, I'm very sorry, I'm a little bit reluctant showing you these slides due to the discussion we had before the break and due to what Professor Heckman told us about, but it is an indicator of family well-being and family life, the relative poverty rates. You know, and I do not tell you anything new, that the relative poverty rate is higher in the United States, it's higher in the United Kingdom, as it is in Germany, for instance, or in Sweden and in Finland. The main thing is that we do have lower poverty rates of families as well, but the poverty rate of one-parent families is in all these countries higher, and higher by a multiplicity, than in the two-parent families. This indicates child poverty before and after taxes and transfers. So this gives us an idea how effective the welfare state is. And again, United States, United Kingdom have higher poverty rates before income and taxes and higher poverty rates after income and taxes. And in Germany, the poverty rate drops from around about 20% to something about 12%. Okay, so much about income and family poverty. I will skip this. Some remarks on empirical evidence. Empirical evidence shows that when we are talking about disadvantage of children and vulnerability of families and children, these are complex concepts composed of different stress factors. Low income is one of them, but there are other stress factors that have to be accounted as well. Low parental education, single-parent families, I mentioned that already, insufficient intra-family interaction between the parents and the children, between the parents themselves, and low interaction quality. These all account for disadvantaged and vulnerable children. Family structure and family background variables significantly affect afterlife attainments. We have a huge body of evidence that there are afterlife attainments that can be correlated with some family background variables. We have Haven and Wolf, Ermisch, and others published on that and showing that these structures, these structural features go back to later family life attainments as well. But, and this is important for our discussion here, family policy effectively moderates the achievement gaps between children from disadvantaged and children from advantaged families. We have heard quite a lot about preschool education, and Professor Heckman has published a lot on this. But it can be shown as well that even monetary family policy has some implication. There is a paper by Pong and others from 2003 published in the Journal of Marriage and the Family, showing that especially those countries with a paid parental leave system, they have better advantages in later life attainments than these countries that do not have these monetary family policy measures. Just some words about the moderating effects of family policy. This is a study that compares Britain and Germany. I'm sorry that I don't have a comparison between the US and Germany, but this study is based on, well, different databases, but the approach, the analytical approach, is more or less the same. We have different outcome measures for education qualifications in Britain and in Germany, okay, non-employment and the health status, and we see that in Britain, where the family policy regime is rather low as well, we have adverse effects on all these outcome levels. on educational qualifications, on the non-employment rate of children living in so-called non-intact families, and on the health status as well. Well, there is a paper by Francesconi and Jenkins showing that this holds not true or not true in the same, for the same level in Germany. We do have insignificant effects on the educational qualification level. We do have insignificant effects on non-employment. The only effect that is significant is the health status that is measured, whether a child is currently a smoker or not. So we can see from here that family policy really and effectively moderates the effects that family structure brings with it. And okay, so I come to an end. Conclusion. The family, we have heard that from Professor Heckman as well, the family is the first and it will always be the most important institution for socialization and for the social inclusion of children, for upbringing, for education of children. Family policy never serves as a substitute for the family, but always as a supplement and as a support to parental caregiving. And I say this to all those who are in favor and against state intervention into families. It's never a substitute. It can never substitute the parents. It's always a supplement and a support. Family policy has to consider the needs of the children and the parents alike, and their needs are mainly three. They need time, and we can, or the state can give time to families, for instance, through paid maternal or parental leave schemes, which are very generous in Germany. I think you don't have a paid parental leave scheme in the US, as far as I know. But this is something, well, that we maybe should talk about. Time for intra-family communication and high-quality intra-family communication. We need, of course, infrastructures, and I took this word kindergarten because it's a German word that you use as well in the US, so it was more or less a German invention. The kindergarten, the preschool, daycare centers, and of course preschool programs, and in Germany almost every child, almost all children have some kind of preschool training, preschool program. 98% of our children go to the kindergarten 1 year before they enter the school, and they have some kind of preschool training. And I would say yes, money, income matters as well. So transfers aimed at families in need is a concern for family policy as well. A modern family policy has to take a comprehensive view on the disadvantaged families, on the disadvantaged families face low income, insufficient care time, inflexible working conditions. This is mainly a problem in Germany, not so much in the US, as far as I mentioned that. And it should focus its policy measures mainly on the vulnerable families, so with external training and education program. My last point, we are talking so much on distressed families, on problems within the families. We are talking, especially in Germany, about maybe there is, in the near future, a war going on between old and young, between different generations. Well, I would say, by and large, families are in a much better shape than official statistics and public policy might suggest. And for me, the most insightful question that the famous Shell Youth Study posed was, if you, this was a question posed to young adults 16 to 22, if you had children, would you bring them up the way you were raised by your parents, or would you raise them differently? And if we had put this question, well, let's say in the end of the 1960s, in the early 70s, well, maybe the figures would have been different than those that I show you now. In 1985, well, almost 53% said exactly the same way or more or less the same way, and a minority of, well, let's say 48% said somewhat or totally different. So this is an indicator for the closeness between the generations. In 2000, 62% said exactly the same or more or less the same way, and only a tiny minority says somewhat different, totally different. And we made a poll by ourselves concerning young Catholic adults, posing them the same question, and you see it here on the slide. The young Catholics are very content with their parents, and they would bring their children up the way they were brought up by their parents. I thank you for your attention.